Hi there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder here with an update to the Mythic Climb. I am now ranked number 211. I have switched decks. I'm not playing my own brew anymore. Kind of my own brew, a twist on two different archetypes right now. A big shout out to Random Jeweler over on MTGO for the list of Sultai Casualty of Wars. Short story is I kept going up against Esper Control, Esper Control, Esper Control, Esper Control all day with Mono Black, and that's one of Mono Black's worst matchups. If you go back to my last deck tech, Blue-White control is pretty easy with Mono Black, but as soon as you splash in black for like Ashiox and things like Cry of the Carnarium, the matchup becomes insanely difficult. So I switched over to a Sultai list, and it's done really well for me. Oh boy, the swing. I started when I switched over to about rank around the 1,000 mark, got all the way to 350-ish, and then proceeded to play against 9 Rakdos / Mono Red aggro decks in a row, and that is a very tricky matchup for this deck. Thankfully, those were just in best of ones, switched back over to best of 3, and this deck has been performing phenomenally. You see a lot of Esper Dance, you see a lot of blue-black white-black enchantments. You see a lot of Fires of Invention. You see some blue-white control. You see some of the more mid-range decks. And this deck is actually very good in that sort of meta. So here is the list. Again, this is my own version of it because I do not think the Voracious Hydra is actually a card that is wanting to be in the meta at the moment. I think that you're not really looking to go over the top of any of the aggro decks or mid-range decks. So Voracious Hydra is just like kind of a dead card in my opinion. It just gets bounced back with the Fairy. There's just not a lot of stuff, a lot of matchups I think that it is good against at the moment. I think that like if you're going against food, that's where the Voracious Hydra probably comes in, or some of these other mid-range based decks. But when you're really aggro or / control, I think Voracious Hydra is just either too slow for aggro, and it's just a little bit wonky versus control. So let's get the deck list up here. So first of all, this is the entire point of the deck is Casualties of War. This is the best card in my opinion right now in the meta. Let me adjust the... There we go. We got the right display there. So Casualty Wars, I think, is the best card right now in the current meta. With Theros, it got a lot better because of just the amount of random enchantments that decks are slotting in. And you will go up against decks like Mono White that have half their creatures will be enchantment creatures. So that ends up being like a 3-for-1 at minimum. Mono Red is actually running an enchantment creature at the moment. The creature doesn't necessarily, I mean, it gets a lot of value from dying, and sometimes it's a feel bad to lead back 2/1 satyrs. However, if they are in the Cavalcade version, that's something you can also hit with the Casualty of War. Also, Mono Red is playing a lot of Chandras, so you can hit with a Planeswalker. You can hit their utility land. Mono Black also has enchantment creatures, so you can hit enchantment creatures, a creature, and a land in that matchup. And if you're going against like the Rakdos Sacrifice, oftentimes you hit Witch's Oven, a land, and a devil. So I think the Casualties of Wars is just really, really well positioned in the meta. So we are trying to run a deck that ramps to it because you need to be casting this a lot quicker than turn 7. You have to be able to, or turn 6, I guess 6 mana spell. You need to be casting this in like turn 4. So the ways that we're going to get there quicker is cards like the Arboreal Grazer and the Paradise Druid and the Growth Spiral. So the Grazer also does a good job chump blocking against Knights and some of the more aggressive base decks. And of course, the Paradise Druid being hexproof is guaranteeing you that mana when you want to use it. And the Growth Spiral is hopefully going to ramp you up as well. Then we're going to have some big payoff spells, being the Hydroid Crisis and the Gadwick the Wizened. Gadwick's just a 1-of in this list. Hydroid Krasis is a 4-of. And the Hydroid Crisis is the card that puts you over the top versus the control matchup. So this is an uncounterable effect of when you cast it. So if they counter the Hydroid Krasis, you're still going to get the cards, which is exactly what you're trying to do, is grind them out. And speaking of another ramp card I didn't mention is Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath. This is just a powerhouse in this deck. It gets very good with cards like Growth Spiral. They're going to go to the graveyard. If the Grazer chump blocks that can go to the graveyard and add fuel to the Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath. And of course, all of our instants that we're going to be casting is also going to be adding towards that value. So one of the cards that also is going to help us ramp/stall is Deathsprout. Deathsprout is going to destroy a creature and then go get a basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped. And that way, a lot of times you can like turn 3, kill their creature, turn 4, Casualty of War is no problem if you've ramped with like a Growth Spiral or like a Paradise Druid or something like that. Of course, this deck gets huge payoff with Nissa, who shakes the world. Nissa, Hydroid Krasis, and Gadwick are just a match made in heaven. Same thing with Casualty of Wars. So there's not a lot there's not a lot to this deck. It's very straightforward. It's a very linear ramp-based strategy, and it's done me quite well hitting top 250. I'm sure if I pushed it a little bit harder, maybe I can get top 100. At that point, though, it definitely does become a grind. So this was just a goal of mine to see how far I could make it in the Mythic on MTG Arena. Competition is actually quite light on MTG Arena. I would say that if you have a winning record on MTGO, Arena is probably a cakewalk. So a lot of people that have just put in the time to grind to Mythic, seeing a lot of like illegitimate decks in my opinion. Some decks, like I don't think the mono red is very well positioned, but man, went against that deck over and over and over again today. So it might just be people in the best of one really just trying to play their 51% win percentage, hopefully, and just slowly climb in the Mythic rating. We are winding down to the end of the season, and people are going to try to sprint to the top. What gets qualified? I don't even know anymore. Someone explain to me how this arena rating works, because I really haven't paid attention. Really haven't really cared for a while. So it's kind of good to be back on the playing more competitive Magic. Again, I say that with air quotes because I don't think that the arena is that competitive, to be honest. I've played in other forms throughout Magic's history of PTQs and Grand Prix, and especially MTGO, and that seems to have a lot better competition than your average Mythic player on MTG Arena. Let's go to the sideboard, though, or we'll go to the mana base here. The mana base is Fabled Passage ×4. This is an absolute must for the graveyard for Euro. I'm playing 2 Temple of Mysteries, 4 Temple of Maladies because the black is more important than the blue, and then 2 Temple of Deceits because green-black is more important than black-blue. Then, of course, Overgrown Tomb and Breeding Pool is a full playset, and you're going to want to run enough basics to actually be able to hit with your Deathsprouts and your what other else gets base? Fabled Passage. That's the other card. So we're going to run 3 forests, 2 swamps, and 3 islands. 3 islands, of course, to be able to cast the Gadwick, the Wizened. 2 swamps to be able to cast the Casualties of Wars. And then forests are just great basic lands in this for hitting Paradise Druids and the Grazers. Those are the ones you want untapped more than often. All right, so the sideboard is pretty straightforward too. I'm running 4 Aether Gust. This is really in here for Fires and Invention. I'll bring it in versus anything running Embercleave. I'll bring it in. Gruul is a tough matchup. Knights can be a tough matchup. Mono Red can be a tough matchup. So stalling them is key. And the Gust is one of the better cards for that. Just screws up their entire curve by putting it on top of their library. Or if they're choosing the bottom, it's at least gone. 4 Mystical Dispute. This comes in versus other ramp-based strategies, blue strategies, other control strategies. Anything running blue, you'll bring Mystical Dispute in. Witch's Vengeance. This is another flavor. I like this versus Knights. It seems to be a lot more... like you can have it be situational versus Knights. If you have like Elementals and Hydroid Krasis is out, you don't have to wipe your entire board with Ritual of Soot. You can actually just wipe your opposing board by naming a creature type that they are going to be running. So yeah, I'm going to run one of Ritual of Soot too, because there are certain matchups like Gruul that I think that you have to be trying to hit one of these. And speaking of like the aggressive-based matchups, the Enter the God Eternals is key versus those. Bringing back a 4/4 zombie and dealing 4 damage to a creature, basically killing that creature, as well as gaining you 4 life is very, very necessary. This is what makes this like a horrible matchup in best of 1 versus like the Mono Red and the Rakdos aggros and the Gruul aggros to pretty even, maybe favorable even at that point. And then last but not least, one of Mass Manipulation versus decks that are trying to go over the top of me. This is, if you're playing against other ramp-based strategies, Mass Manipulation can get everything of theirs onto your side. So had a pretty fun game versus another ramp deck that was running Thassa, and Thassa was online. It was able to Mass Manipulation all of their stuff, or at least the good stuff, and then start using Thassa to exile or to flicker their card, because Thassa is actually kind of cool how Thassa states that if you exile a card you control, it comes back under your control, not owner's control, under your control. So you can keep, I was able to keep bouncing the Cavalier over and over and drawing a ton of cards and setting up my library. So again, I don't have a lot left in me to play games. I need to find a time where I actually can either stream or play this on YouTube. I apologize, I just am not the best player when I try to talk and play. It's one of those things that is just not a talent of mine. So I've been trying to focus on grinding the arena, and for now I'm not going to do gameplay unless I can find a good slot. Like, I've already played way too much today. I am burnt out, so possibly Monday, Tuesday, we can play this deck, or maybe I'll try some other decks. There's some pretty neat little decks that I also want to try, like the opposite of Euro, the red-black Elder Giant that discards card. There's a pretty cool Oxalist with that card that has a very, very grindy matchup. There is a black-white enchantments that I think is pretty solid right now for best of one that I want to give a go to. But other than that, I've been having fun with grinding the Mythic. Haven't in the past. I just think that we're in a standard that you can actually tailor to your play style. I haven't enjoyed, like, of course, Oko, when Oko was dominate, and before even Throne of Eldraine came out, I didn't think that Standard was in a very good place at that time either. Right now, Standard's okay. I don't really mind it. There, you have like a rock, paper, scissors, lizards, nuclear bomb, Spock type format. You can run aggro, you can run variants of aggro, you can run mid-range, you can run like combo with Fires of Invention, you can run control, you can run different flavors of control, you can run like enchantments control, you can run even black-red control. There are viable strategies in Standard, and I think it's in a pretty good position at the moment. I don't know if there necessarily needs to be any changes to it. I think that Theros added a lot of like key cards to helping key strategies, and we are in a pretty good spot for Standard. Haven't forgotten about Pioneer or Pauper. Need to give those a go again. But again, busy with a lot of stuff right now. Thought at least I'd show you what I've been working on in the arena. So again, I'll have to show you a go of this deck sometime soon. For now, I'm going to call it a day, and I don't know, go play some board games or something. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.